my creatures of the night. Yes, welcome back once again to the Fox Den and Star Fox Radio. Except tonight, this is not going to be an episode of Midnight Lycanthropy. No, this is going to be a little bit of a historical back check on who I am, since I've had a ton of individuals wanting to know pretty much how I've ended up where I am in life. So instead of sending out numerous messages and repeating myself over and over again, I figured, well, what better way than to explain to everybody in one video. My name is Kenneth Thibodeau, aka Starfox. I was born in Maine in a small little ghetto trailer park. And yes, unfortunately, growing up, my parents definitely did not have the best income or, well, the most friendly relationship with substances, but they did originally try to put together a decent lifestyle for, well, my little brothers and myself. Yet, I am the firstborn, so before my two little brothers were born, unfortunately, it's before my recollection of, I guess, the whole entire situation. But according to my grandparents, rest in peace, Nana, so I just have my remaining grandfather who, well, let's just say isn't the biggest fan of me. But either way, they had to take me in because my mother, unfortunately, at that point in time was suffering with substance abuse, which, fast forward, that actually was the downfall of her alcoholism. And last New Year's, while I was on a podcast, actually, she passed away. So rest in peace, Mom. Love you. But yes, so my grandparents had to take me in and bring me down to Florida. And, well, there got to a point in time where obviously the doctors and therapists were like, look, if you don't give him back to his mother, they're not going to really have ever a normal parental-child relationship, and who knows if they ever will. So, yes, I went back to my mom. My mom ended up getting married to my stepdad, had two other children, and then we ended up, well, having a semi-normal family life for a bit. Like I said, we definitely still struggled on finances and other aspects. Yet, well, they definitely did what they could. I had a very friend-based relationship, I guess, with my real father, which still to this day, I would never, reach out to him for any sort of life expectations or life questions, etc. I mean, we're still pretty much just like a friend type relationship. I don't blame him for anything, yet, like I said, I don't also put a lot of faith or stock into our relationship as well. But I used to go up there on the weekends and hang out with him, and also, well, my mom wasn't a big fan of him, considering obviously they weren't together, so it wasn't the easiest. I mean, that always made it difficult. Yet back, with my mom and my stepdad and stuff, I used to play a ton of soccer. Never was a fan of soccer. I wanted to play hockey or football, yet being poor, my parents gave me the ultimatum of playing either soccer, basketball, or baseball, and the latter two are gross. I'm a big sports guy. I'm not even a soccer fan, though. Like I said, I'm a hockey guy, okay? Big Boston Bruins fan. I mean, football is pretty cool, too. Definitely not the biggest baseball, basketball, and soccer fan, that's for sure. Yet, I pretty much had to travel around all the time and play in all these elite tournaments and such, and being poor, it would always take my parents a ton of time to try to get us to go around and do that. And pretty much while we were doing that is when my parents also started kind of getting really deep into substance abuse issues. There were times where, we didn't have proper food around the house. I had to, I don't know how many times, just eat stale cereal with like water, or we didn't have oil or gas in our furnace. I'm not sure which the trailer used, yet we would have to heat the house with the oven. There were times where I would have to go ask some of the neighbors or some of my friends if I could, get a sandwich or something and go back and split it with like my little brothers and stuff too. So as that started getting really bad, my little brother decided, to emancipate himself and kind of get away from that picture, and he blossomed into a superstar in life. Same thing with my other younger brother too, actually. But either way, well, I kept playing soccer, but never really had my heart in it because I didn't care to be playing the sport anyhow. And well, I should have really been focusing more on school instead of being a punk, which I'm a big advocate though. You can't look back in the past and be upset. You can always build and move forward. So that's why I'm a huge geeker and nerd now, and I love learning. But back then, yeah, I was just a punk. Well, pretty much my family life went to heck. And at this point in time, I moved down to Boston and, well, was doing a ton of side work, side opportunities, nothing too major. I was in with a few like small acting companies that thought I had a cool look, so nothing too special. And then, well, I was given an opportunity to get in and work with Abercrombie and Fitch because I was dating some girl that was best friends with one of the regional managers, which then, got me into doing other opportunities with modeling and acting and getting to meet, Anna Faris and be in her movie Working Number as an extra. So a lot of cool opportunities. One of my really good friends was a Playboy model. And yeah, I always, for some reason too, had this inside feeling of needing to prove to myself that I could look cool and be cool and, be good looking, because growing up, being poor, everybody else would be rocking like super good clothing, like preppy stuff, Abercrombie and Fitch, etc., Calvin Klein. And here I was going to school in like Levi's and Wranglers. So even though I was part of the soccer team, I still got made fun of because I was still part of the poor kids also. Yet, back what I was saying, I was then given this opportunity to, well, take on potentially a modeling semi-career. And from that, I ended up signing with Maggie Inc. down in Boston and traveled all around and did a whole bunch of partying, stupid things, was drinking too much, doing drugs, all kinds of stupid things. And I would be at photo shoots with some of my girlfriends that I was dating, or at points in time when I was single. Either way, we would shoot all day, party all night, and then we would just repeat. And I was just around terrible people. I didn't really consider myself, now looking back, a good person at all either. And well, my mom, unfortunately, is struggling with alcoholism and all this such. Well, she had ended up starting to get pretty sick up here in Maine. So even though I was acting and modeling, and yeah, I was still doing some semi-pro soccer stuff because I was really good, but again, I didn't care about it. I had a chance to potentially get a full boat scholarship to West Virginia as a goalkeeper. Actually, somebody that I played in the Olympic development program with, who was my backup goalie, actually ended up becoming the starter for a big-time college. And he actually, I think it might have been West Virginia, where potentially they were scouting me too, and he broke all kinds of NCAA records, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I had hurt my knee a couple times, and I don't know, just didn't really care about it. So I stepped away and decided, I needed to try to come back up here and help my mom. Well, when I came up here, I was living in Yarmouth with a friend of mine and her boyfriend, and just commuting back down to the Portland area to try to help my mom. I was just picking up side jobs here or there. There was a store up here in Abercrombie and Fitch where, even though I used to do, like photos and things, I just pretty much stood at the front of the store, greeted people, and helped inside of the store and stuff. And well, then my mom had a ton of unfortunate health issues, and I ended up not having a place to go because I had given up my apartment in Yarmouth to stay down in Portland to try to help her out more. My grandfather gave me like literally, I think, 4 or 5 days to try to find out where I could go. And I just pretty much was reaching out to people, trying to figure out what the heck, like where I could go. And I mean, I had been used to kind of sleeping around on couches and things at people's houses and such, because when I was acting and modeling down in Boston, I mean, I would just stay at a friend's house all the time. Sometimes, like I said, sleeping on the couch. Maybe they had an extra room or sleeping bag on the floor, doesn't matter either way. I was like, what the heck? I mean, oh, this is great. And I ended up finding a spot I could go. Yet I had to sleep on a couch. And just honestly, in the past 3 years, I finally gotten like my own room, and I gotten like a bed set up and things like that, and actually really been able to get moving back in the direction I wanted to. And well, I was working at a restaurant as a server at the Olive Garden also now, and I was weightlifting and wasn't weightlifting smart whatsoever. And from numerous injuries when I played semi-pro soccer, well, I also then now hurt myself lifting at the gym. Ended up spraining one of my knees again, and then, well, still had to work at the Olive Garden, and the knee didn't really get better. I ended up hurting and tweaking my other knee. Yet, as I had to go to treatment, I have literally like no family help whatsoever. Two of my little brothers are awesome. They help me out as much as they can, but that's pretty much it besides my uncle. I mean, those are my three best friends in my family. Everybody else doesn't really, well, seem to believe in me or believe in what I'm about or what I'm trying to do or my mindset, and they didn't believe when I got injured. And my grandfather, for example, super rich, sent me $1 on Christmas in a card, and then asked me why I didn't cash it. What, you don't need the dollar? So yeah, that's pretty much like the support I get. Either way, I'm still, at this point in time, trying to carry heavy trays at the Olive Garden, and that place was something out of a nightmare where the managers just screamed all the time. You had to carry super heavy things, and well, what did I do? I ended up crushing my collarbone and breaking it, but I didn't even know until, well, maybe a year and a half, 2 years after working there. All of a sudden my right arm just swelled up like a Shrek arm. And I texted my little brother down in Boston. He's like, holy Shrek, dude. And I was like, yeah, right. And he's like, how long has this been going on? You should probably get that looked at. And it had only been like a day or so. And I thought maybe it was from some of the physical therapy I'd been doing. But, well, I went down to a small little walk-in clinic, and they're like, nope, dude, you got to go to the hospital now. And as soon as I got there, well, they figured out I had a massive blood clot under my arm that was obviously causing the inflammation. So I'm a super healthy person. I eat healthy and things like that. So it had nothing to do with any of that. It was kind of terrible because they put me on these super advanced blood thinners, but because I'm young enough and healthy enough, they said I was a perfect candidate for it. It was basically like super blood thinners where they could end up getting the surgery done quicker and such. So I had to inject myself with these in my stomach, and I don't really have much fat. I'm like 6'1", 158. I've weighed up to 168, kind of fluctuates, 162, give or take. So it didn't feel the nicest, that is for sure. Well, then when they were taking like x-rays and things like that, they ended up realizing I had broken my collarbone, and it was pushing down onto the top of my ribs and basically cutting off blood flow properly in this vein. I was like, oh, this is great. And I first had to go in, and they had to suck the blood clot basically out. They put something that looked like a Terminator machine in my arm, and that was the first surgery. I had to stay in there until the following day after they could then remove it, and then I had to stay again. And then the following day they had to check on me. So I was in there for, I think, like 3 days at that point in time. Then they sent me home, and just had me keep on plowing out the blood thinners. And then I had to go back in like a week later, and that's when they literally had to remove a portion of my rib, my upper rib, to resection it and fix like the space and the gap that now is there for my collarbone to not clamp on that vein anymore. Yeah, I'm able to definitely do more than I was because I luckily had some great doctors, great physical therapists and such, and I'm able to do all the proper rehab like foam rolling and things, and I have specific exercises so I can jog and I can walk around and I can jump and things like that, but I get super stiff. Like, I've been diagnosed with musculoskeletal syndrome, meaning like if I'm not careful, my joints, like in my lower back, like my sacrum and SI, will lock up. And well, I don't have money to just have people do that for me. So luckily, I can break myself more or less with the tools I have. But before, I was working at a sports doctor, luckily, that was doing some of my treatment while I was working at the Olive Garden. But he used to have to put me on this table and literally felt like my back was being broken into this. It was like a drop table, and he had to keep plowing my SI joints and my sacrum back into place. And then they used to connect me to this table where I had to lay down. And honestly, I felt like a I think I understand what people during medieval times would have felt like, where, well, a horse pulled you in two different directions because it was called traction, whereas my pelvis was rotated from doing so many crunches at the gym and just breaking myself, that to unrotate it, they had to tie this basically seatbelt around me that had cables on it, and they would put the machine on a certain resistance and it would legit just pull you apart. But at this point in time, I still was having to work at the Olive Garden and just destroying myself. Yeah, now, I mean, luckily, I've been able to have, like I said, a lot of great doctors and therapists and things that have helped me mentally become a way better person and get a way better value of myself. In the past 8 years, I've been able to change a ton, and yeah, I actually like the human being I am now. I mean, I'm so happy to be alive and learn and just create opportunity, where even in the past when I was acting and modeling, I used to be like super emo and just always questioning everything. And it's been a huge turnaround, and I'm super happy about that. Yeah, I still just need to be careful with things. I mean, from growing up with my parents being psychotic all the time, like I have super bad anxiety and I can get definitely stressed out easy. So it wasn't until I sat down with therapists and figured out how to handle all that stuff that I got it under control. Because I mean, there were points in time that I used to have panic attacks while I was at the Olive Garden or acting or modeling, where it just literally felt like I always had a noose around my neck or an elephant sitting on my chest. And those were feelings that, well, I definitely promised myself that I no longer wanted to feel and have be a part of my existence. To everyone out there that is dealing with issues like that, it's super important, to take care of yourself mentally, because when I was in a bad spot mentally, my body was even worse. But now that I am only about good vibes and just trying to, like I said, do good things and be a good person, I've just noticed such a difference. I mean, I'm still banged up and I still need to be careful, and I can't really do physical work, but I have my brain, and I mean, I can be successful as a journalist and work with technology and etc. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got to where I am right now. I mean, growing up, I was a huge fan of Linda Godfrey, rest in peace, and Jody Cook of the North American Dogman Project, and I used to read a ton of their stuff. So fast forward, when Shane Michael Crisp and Jody Cook gave me an opportunity to come on board and be a journalist for the North American Dogman Project, I already was following this from being an interest of when I was a child and 11 teen back in high school. But I was also really deeply following the missing persons issue that my buddy Steve Stockton was covering as well. So it all just made sense to take up that opportunity. And well, for the past year that I've been doing this, I've spoken to a ton of witnesses and been able to document things and bring people on and cover a ton of stories, and well, start to bring some light to the issue of why people are missing in the national forests and near cave systems all over the United States and the globe. So that's pretty much, obviously not everything that has occurred to me yet. Well, that is a good sum of it. And now, like I said, I'm just all about being super chill and being a good person and doing good things. Thanks to everybody out there that does stop in to, the Fox Den and support Star Fox Radio, Midnight Lycanthropy, and the whole Midnight Society. I appreciate all of you, and much love. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to everybody soon.